Another year means another video summarizing the evolution of my personal food choices. We're just going to ignore the fact that I didn't do one last year because we're just going to be combining the last 2 years into one video. Remember, foods I started eating can mean foods I tried for the first time that I think are worth sharing, but they're mostly going to be foods that I've had before that I made a conscious effort to include on a more regular basis. Before I start, let me know what's something you began including in the last couple years, and while you do that, I'll go over 10 foods that I started eating in 2024 and 2025. Starting chronologically, early 2024, I had probably the most unpleasant sickness of my entire life, some kind of stomach flu that left me a useless couch potato for about a week. I wasn't really able to eat anything but saltine crackers and pumpkin seeds. Turns out I've been sleeping on these. They taste really good, though I'll admit my use of them has pretty much been limited to a snack food, but I've had them on a fairly regular basis as one since then. Nutritionally, they contain about what you'd expect in most commonly eaten seeds. A lot of fat, including some ALA, a good amount of protein, some fiber, mainly insoluble, as well as iron, magnesium, potassium, and zinc, some of the more commonly deficient minerals. On top of that, a variety of antioxidant compounds, tocopherols, beta-carotene, lignans, and many phenolic acids. You'll find studies showing its benefits for heart health, lower blood pressure, lower blood sugar, bladder health, and a reduced risk of certain cancers. Pretty typical stuff associated with seeds. Lately, these have just been my go-to seed of choice because I like how they taste. So if you want to include seeds in your diet, try a few different ones out before you settle on one you like. It's no secret that I'm at least a moderate defender of red meat, and lately I've been more of an enjoyer of steak. I'll establish up front that I believe as long as red meat is not ruined by humans in some capacity, its risks are blown out of proportion and its benefits are tough to practically replace. It's no secret that I eat it on a regular basis, though when cooking at home it used to be more in the form of ground beef. However, lately it's been more in the form of steak. The switch has been less for nutritional reasons and more for other practical ones. The main one being ease of cooking. With ground beef, I always felt the need to dress it up, to put it in some kind of recipe to make it more appetizing. With steak, I can just throw it on a pan and it's ready in a couple minutes. It's mindless and versatile, which is what you need sometimes. Though more recently, I have been putting in a bit more effort, slicing it thinner and tossing it in some garlic butter. It is surprisingly addictive for how simple it is. And by now, we know that red meat has a lot to offer: a ton of bioavailable protein, a bit of fat, iron, zinc, selenium, and B vitamins, and beyond the obvious, creatine, carnosine, choline, and taurine, all compounds that we've discussed before. Now, over the last couple years, I have become a more vocal defender of popcorn because what's not to love about it? Pretty much everyone snacks, so you might as well snack on something that's relatively nutritious that won't actively harm you. In practice, it's lower in calories than most salty snacks, higher in protein, and an amazing source of fiber, so it's often found to be more satiating. And it's richer than you'd think in several vitamins and minerals: manganese, magnesium, phosphorus, iron, zinc, and even vitamin E. It's probably the only food where I can eat way too much of it in one sitting and not feel bad at all afterwards. No heavy feeling in my gut, no lethargy, none of the negative feelings you get after binging almost every other carb-dense food. I think overall it would do a lot of good if everyone traded in their chips and crackers and whatever else for popcorn, on the condition that it's just plain popcorn. Minimal additions or flavors, ideally just air-popped at home with a bit of oil and seasoning or maybe even nutritional yeast. I'm kinda secretly hoping I got a proper popcorn maker for Christmas, but I'm recording this before Christmas, so I guess we'll see. After the multitude of comments on my condiments tier list about sauces that I left off, I decided that I needed to try a few, and one in particular stood out: Tzatziki. In fact, it was so good that it was basically the sole purpose of an entire video, and yet it's a sauce that's still surprisingly under the radar despite being synonymous with Mediterranean-style dishes. My own family didn't know what it was either, so clearly we need to push it to get more exposure. It's a pretty harmless and even nutritious sauce, in stark contrast to most. It's made of Greek yogurt, olive oil, cucumber, lemon juice, and herbs and spices like garlic, dill, and mint, which gives it a unique, creamy, tangy, and fresh flavor. For nutrients, it's heavy on protein and fat, largely monounsaturated fats, another big change from most common sauces and dips, even those you would think might be similar at first glance, like a spinach artichoke dip. And we know that the other staple ingredients like cucumber, lemon, and garlic can really only do good in moderation. And it's a really versatile sauce and dip too. I'll have it with anything that even resembles Mediterranean-style food, like shawarma or gyro. But it can also go more casually with the likes of falafel, lamb, salads, crunchy veggies, and crucially the next food on this video: Another staple in Mediterranean and Greek cuisine, pita bread has been my go-to all year. In most cases, it's a lower calorie and more protein and fiber dense bread without necessarily having a dense texture to go with it. The way it's designed can make it feel like you're eating a lot while not actually eating that much, at least for me. And lately there's been more of a push to popularize whole grain pita bread, making it one of the more nutritious choices, notably richer in selenium, iron, B vitamins, and phenolic acids. It's very versatile. You can load it up with many meats, veggies, or sauces. Or you can stick them in the oven with a little oil and seasoning, and in 10 minutes you've got crispy pita chips that open up other possibilities with its new texture. Though I'll admit I find pita bread most useful as a quick grab snack. An extremely simple, guilt-free, and effective hunger stopper. Simply tear and munch so you can get right back to whatever it is you were doing. I think it's an understatement to say that I like fish a lot. Sushi is probably still my favorite dish. But eating fish all the time isn't exactly practical, so lately I've turned to an old favorite, the seaweed nori. Fatty fish are considered the best dietary source of DHA and EPA omega-3s, a couple of nutrients I've found to be even more important over these last couple years. Unfortunately, nori is not rich in DHA at all, but it covers EPA pretty well, which is vital for heart, joint, and brain health. It averages about 30 milligrams of it per sheet, which is the most common form it comes in. An estimated 3/4 of the global population is considered omega-3 deficient, and this is a cheap, simple, and versatile way to fight back a little. Nori is extremely low calorie while being a relevant source of protein, vitamin C, and carotenoids. Wrap it around fish, rice, sliced veggies, put them in soup, or just eat the sheets plain on their own. Truly one of the easiest additions to a diet you could possibly imagine that I think just doesn't even cross most people's minds. So a major reason why sushi isn't always practical is that stuff is expensive. Yet for some reason poke bowls, which are in a lot of ways just disassembled sushi in a bowl, tend to be much more affordable and doable. This traditionally Hawaiian dish, which I actually did not know until recently, typically consists of just some of the most nutrient-dense foods out there, typically highlighted with some kind of seafood, tuna, salmon, crab, shrimp, or octopus, or plant-based tofu or tempeh, and then avocado, edamame, carrots, cucumber, mango, pineapple, radish, onion, ginger, seaweed, sesame seeds, all on a bed of typically rice, but often quinoa, cauliflower rice, or mixed greens as well. I have given pretty much nothing but praise to every single one of these ingredients over the years, and miraculously they taste amazing together, which is a common hurdle for a lot of other attempts to create recipes with several top-tier foods. This is especially a big deal for me because fish is that one food that I just crave and need to have sometimes. Tuna or salmon depending on the day, and this is such a simple throw it all together dish that is satisfying every time. So in case you didn't know, I have lived most of my life in the southern US. We're really big on our sweet tea here to the point that there's kind of a stigma against unsweet tea. But in case you couldn't tell from the graphic that just flashed up, I'm coming around to it. Now you may be thinking that last time I made one of these, I said I started drinking black tea. How is this any different? Well, that one was hot and this one's cold. I drink hot tea for the soothing effect and iced tea so I don't have to drink as much plain water. That is literally all I see it as, slightly more flavorful water, but that can really make a difference in terms of motivation for your hydration. It's virtually no calories, it's got some amount of caffeine for an alertness boost, it's got flavonoid antioxidants that can aid with heart health, and as long as you're not chugging tons of it every day, it's not really going to do any harm. I really have come a long way from just calling it dirty leaf juice. Uncle Iro would be proud. We can all agree that fruits are amazing, but that some are better than others. For instance, fresh cranberries aren't the most practical food in the world to eat, but dried cranberries might actually be the best dried fruit, in terms of accessibility, ease of consumption, and in my opinion, taste, and it has actual nutrients too. It's notably fiber-rich, particularly soluble fiber like pectin, and is full of powerful antioxidant compounds including quercetin, myricetin, peanidin, and proanthocyanidins. But actually the most important nutrient for me personally is their sugar. No food has ever been a better quick and convenient energy source, at least for me. They have been my go-to pre-workout food, lasting exactly as long as I need it to, making sure I am energized for the duration of the workout. And I will use them without shame any other time I need an energy boost too. I do recommend trying to get them unsweetened, as there's already enough sugar in them that should be a more sustainable fuel source due to the berry's complexity. And that's really it. Clearly several of these don't have the most intricate reasonings. I think everyone should have a go-to energy food, and this is just the one that I found I like. And the last thing I started having these last couple years that I think is worth sharing is soup. Not any one in particular, just the broad idea of soup, though of course I do have my favorites. Soups are a unique genre of food that opens up a world of possibilities. They can be the main course of a meal, or they can simply be a prelude. They can be ingredient dense or just a bowl of warm, comforting broth. They're naturally going to help ease the load a bit of hydrating, and they are very commonly used to aid with weight management as they can be quite filling for fewer calories. Arguably more importantly, they're a simple and versatile way to include foods that you know you should be eating that you can't seem to find a way to fit into your diet by other means. Now, there are ways to mess up soup. Lots of pre-packaged or canned soups are loaded with thickeners or sodium. This can not only be hazardous for some, but it also might just ruin the appeal in the first place. But as with anything else, only potential pitfalls can be avoided with some foresight. As for me, I've been rotating between broccoli cheddar, potato, French onion, miso, lobster bisque, tomato bisque, hot pepper, chili, and really whatever else I can come up with or run into. A lot of flexibility because I mainly have them as appetizers. I know it's the end of the video, but if you made it this far, let me know what's your favorite soup. I'd love to try more. It's important to remember that your nutrition is allowed to evolve. It's allowed to adapt to your ever-changing life, your needs, your goals, your preferences. Go ahead and try new things, new flavors, new textures. As long as you've taken care of the requirements, find ways to enjoy it. Now, if you enjoyed this video, or at the very least learned a little something, I encourage you to subscribe as I have plenty more of these on the way. Again, let me know down in the comments what you started eating recently. And remember that all I ask is that you do your own research and advocate for your body. You only get the one.